Hey there viewers, welcome back to Ray of All Trades. We're back on the Bobcat ZT219. We've got a complaint that the deck wasn't cutting properly, and what we'd see is the center blade was cutting just fine. It's the two outside blades that weren't the routing of this belt, and I couldn't find anything that matched it. It's because somebody added that pulley in the bottom left corner, and the routing of the deck belt that you see there would allow the center pulley to go the correct direction because it's driven by the motor, but the two outside pulleys are spinning the wrong direction. So obviously the blades were trying to cut backward. Had a hard time finding the correct parts for this, so I found a machine that was close and retrofitted what I could to make it work. Put it back to the basic design that it had before, and got the lathe and the welder out and decided to put. So it literally has been probably 3 weeks since I last talked to you guys. If you remember, we had a belt coming from this pulley, around the back side of this pulley, across that pulley, and around the other pulley, which means that whatever direction these two outside ones were spinning, this one was spinning the opposite way. Now, since this is the drive pulley and it was being turned the appropriate way by the engine, it means that this blade was spinning the right direction, based off of this, but the drive to run the outside two were not spinning the right direction, which means that they were all going backwards. I had a heck of a time finding the appropriate belt routing positions because I kept concentrating on this pulley over here. Well, I believe what's happened is somebody removed the pulley from the bracket over here and added this pulley over here, because there's nothing that I see that this pulley exists. So I went to Jack Small Engines, went to their diagram, and found a whole bunch of parts. It's called idler deck weldment. I'll link all the parts in the description. Anyway, it appears that this somehow fits over there. That should be the bolt that holds that in place. There's a grease fitting that I believe I didn't need to order because I already had one here. That came on a lock washer, an E-clip, flat washer, lock washer. And then the adjustment pulley, which should be somewhere in there. Bolt goes first. Then the lock washer. This washer should probably go there, and then that E-clip was supposed to go right here. Looks like it might be the wrong size for that. It appears to go into there. So I'm going to tighten that up. Now we're going to be modifying something, I can tell. We've got the bolt lock washer. There's a bearing inside here that once I tighten this up, the bolt and this bracket should stay centered. The pulley should be able to spin on the bearing without any problem. So 3/4 inch wrench or a 19 millimeter. It is a lock washer under there, so it's not that critical. Make sure that spins like it's supposed to. So there's still something goofy with the way this anchors on here, but let's see, this spring should go around that holder right there, and then that gives me my tension somehow. Okay, still not quite right. However, it's a lot closer. This arm is not for this machine. It's really close though. It's got the wrong diameter. It's also not as long as one that I found online in a picture. I do want it to be somewhere in this ballpark so that the spring anchors here to that arm, and I need the spring to have some tension, you know, when I go to anchor this thing. So ideally, I want to take the spring off there to get everything lined up by eye. And that right about there gives me room for the spring to stretch to give me tension, you know, to pull on the belt. It helps pull all that into place. So ideally, this would be a perfect spot for this anchor, right, you know, like right there, because like I said, the spring would have to stretch to get where it's got to go. Might even give myself a little bit of play there. So let me mark this spot with a marker, and then I'm going to have to find a sleeve for this to pivot on. I had a really hard time finding, because there wasn't any parts here before to compare to, so I was just going by instructions on what fit what. I know this is not a 72-inch deck, and it did say this arm was for the 72-inch deck. The thing is, there is not an arm listed for this 52-inch or whatever this thing is. There wasn't another arm listed, so I just assumed it was the same part, and it was just a misprint, because, I mean, why would they have one part and not the other? But I think I was wrong. Well, I'm confident I was wrong. So I think right about there. So I gave it a mark right about there. If I pull everything somewhat taut, the spring has room to move. If not, I can actually extend or shorten the spring if need be. So I think I want something that fits close to this diameter, a little bit smaller, and I'm going to weld it right to there. The other thing I can do is I can also weld underneath this back to this if I find something that fits this post versus that hole. So let me go through my stash, see what I got, grab the welder, and see what kind of stuff we can make happen. Be right back. Okay, so this is what I found. I had a piece of steel stock. I was just setting it up on the lathe, getting somewhere close to centered up, so I don't have you know, cut, no cut. So anyway, just setting up my lathe. It's a little bit too large for this, but it's pretty close. A piece of rigid EMT, like electrical conduit or black pipe, was really close. I think it was probably 1/2 inch. Was really close in diameter, but they're hollow in the center. This one here is a piece of solid stock, so I can cut it to any size I want. And so I'm going to make it a little bit larger than this. Then I'm going to cut a groove for the E-clip. And then we'll weld that probably to either directly to the deck, or we'll weld it to a washer and then weld the washer to the deck. One or the other. So I'm just going to play with my tools here and have a good time. washer fits on just fine. That fits on just fine. So if the washer was on there, I would need the E-clip to be right about there. We're going to act like we're assembling this just because we got a spot there that looks a little bit out of square. I'm going to go ahead and put my E-clip cut in first. So that I can base everything else off of that. So basically this is the top, this would be the E-clip, then the washer, and then this arm. Maybe something like that. So it drops down in there. We'll grind this off, and we're going to weld this to that deck. And if my measurements are correct, yep, I got room for that washer now. And the E-clip. Yep, and that should still move. If not, I can, if it doesn't, if it's too tight, I messed up something, I can also grind the top of this a little bit, make it fit. So, washers, grinding, I mean, several things you can do. Let me get this welded and then cleaned up so that we can weld it onto the deck. Okay guys, based on what you guys and I decided, we're going to try to put it, bolt that washer right there. So this is going to go right here. And then what I just ground over here is I can attach my welding ground. I'll make sure that this belt is not touching that arm. Set it there to there. It's really close. Let's move that up a little bit right there. Yep. Let's mark that. No closer than that. Something else just occurred to me. Make sure that this is all at the same height. Let's see if you're up with that. We could stand to be one washer taller. That's okay. I think I can weld all that at one time. Okay, I've got a good ground. Got my MIG welder. I'm going to try to raise the deck up a little bit, make it easier for me. Get a couple of tacks here. Paint said something about fastest dry time, paint primer in one. I don't know. I had red, I didn't have green. How about that? I'm gonna go ahead and give this thing a little bit of grease. It has a grease fitting, and I will put some on when I'm done. I'm just gonna start to make sure that I get good coverage at the onset. Centers up on that other pulley pretty good. Good motion. We might have got lucky on this one. And I say might because we're not out of the woods yet. All of those are spinning clockwise. I'll go in the right direction this time. There might need to be a little bit more tension on this. And we can do that by just shortening this spring up a little bit. Probably something like that. Since there's a ratchet in there. Looks like there's a spot for a spring down here. I feel one on the bottom of this back pulley. And there's a spot for a spring right here. Let's see, get you guys down there. So on the bottom of this one, there is a spot for the spring to wrap around down here. Got that one. And then on back here, there's another post. So there's a post right here that the spring comes around, and then there's a post that's up here under this one, but you have to have tension on it for that spring to stay in place. So I'm gonna have to set you guys down, put tension on it, put the ratchet in here to give this thing tension so that it holds the spring, and then I can put the belt on. So hold tight. Put tension on it. So let's put the spring in the two grooves. So on that one and on that one. Let's preload this thing. Goes around the back side of the flat pulley and the front side, the groove pulley.